if you have recruiters in your organization, they're the ones hiring your salespeople, right? So if they don't have all of the tools that they need to deliver those salespeople, doesn't matter how good your sales enablement is really, because if they're not equipped to hire great salespeople, as an example, then you're never going to be able to sell anything, right? A bad hire can cost the company thousands and thousands of pounds. So it is absolutely in a business's interest to look at equipping your recruiters with all of the tools they need to succeed.
Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify and stay tuned for our weekly episodes. I'm your host, Lydia, and this week we have Sophie Power of Join Talent. Great to have you with us, Sophie.
Hi, thank you so much, Lydia. Yeah, absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
So, Sophie, you definitely have, a deep and extensive experience in talent acquisition. So, what's the pull factor for you in this field? Tell us a little bit about your journey in this space so far.
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of where I started in my career, I studied a degree in comparative literature, which was a very varied degree. I studied all sorts, often jokingly refer to it as a very expensive book club, but one of the things I really loved was kind of sitting around talking to people. I found I was really good at that bit. Then thinking about careers and things like that, I didn't have anything super obvious that I wanted to get into, but I saw that a recruitment agency in my hometown was offering a sort of a summer job, working in branch with them. So I took it because I thought, do you know what, it'd give me it'd get me some office experience, which I didn't have at the time. And sort of my part-time work was in retail. It would give me an insight into, kind of the world of work. And if nothing else, I'd hopefully get some connections at the local recruitment agency when I move back after graduation next year. In the end, I found that I actually really loved it. So I worked with, helping to find candidates for roles, did a bit of marketing for them, a lot of kind of intern stuff as well. I make a mean cup of tea, what can I say? And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So after graduation, a little bit of traveling, because who doesn't after uni? I went to go work full-time in recruiting. I quite quickly sort of realized that in-house recruitment was something I really wanted to do.
Right.
With that in mind, I moved via an RPO, then fully in-house within the space of about a year. Actually, I moved in-house pretty quickly, which was great. I worked in sort of large corporate organizations for about 6 years before moving into startups in 2017. Very late 2016 actually, but yeah. 2017, sort of with gusto. And yeah, I've spent a long time living in London, working in the London tech scene. I worked for some huge, what are now pretty huge organizations. So my first startup, GWI, now operates all over the globe, has hundreds of employees, but I was their very first recruiter and was employee number 35, and, sort of grew the business quite substantially. I've worked for some quite big names in the startup scene that have gone on to raise hundreds of millions of pounds in funding, and yeah, it's been pretty exciting, which is drawn me to Join Talent, which is where I am now.
And the scaling bit for startups would have been quite the challenge for you. So how did you adapt your skills coming from the agency? Sort of the agency setup and bringing those skills into an organization that is scaling really fast. I mean, what are those skills that you found were transferable in this scenario?
Yeah, sure. So it's an interesting one. One of the things that I was probably less strong at in agency, if I'm being completely honest, was the sort of business development sales side of things. It's not my strong suit, truth be told. What I am really good at is working with people, engaging with people, understanding, what's important to them, what they're looking for from a new role, and engaging with them, getting them to go through a recruitment process and helping them understand whether this is the right role for them or not, and going on that journey with them. That is the part that I think is really important, especially when I moved into startups. I found it really came into its own, because ultimately you're trying to, pitch essentially a role at a company that nobody's heard of when they're currently working for a massive global organization. And sure, they're looking for a new role, but, when you're trying to convince them to move into an industry that's really, growing, there's still quite an element of risk there, isn't there? So understanding what's interesting to them, understanding what motivates them, all sorts, and it's quite a holistic approach is really important for getting them to, be excited, be engaged, want to kind of work for your company. I think people are more switched on to the world of startups and scale ups now than perhaps they were when I started. But, that's still very much the case for a lot of candidates that I speak to. And I think that, to actually get back to answering the question, that bit about engaging with people and finding out what makes them tick, and sort of that really people-centric approach, like that is the bit where I think I really excel in talent acquisition.
So in your role at Jointel, you're the TA Partnerships Director. So what are some areas that you're looking into currently at Jointel?
Bit of everything. Yeah. So
but it's a large setup, isn't it? It's global, and you've got colleagues all over.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So we were founded in the UK by Katrina Hutchinson O'Neill back in 2019. So we're a UK founded company, but yeah, we operate in, I think, 19 countries and counting. We've got quite large hubs in the UK and Ireland, South Africa, India, but we've also got teams as far flung as Japan, Australia. We've got people in the US, all over mainland Europe as well. So, what I really admired about Join Talent, and I think one of the important things that drew me there, is that it's an embedded talent organization, or RPO for want of a better word, that has been founded by people that have worked in in-house recruitment. So we're, that is our background, that is our sort of area of expertise. We understand the client perspective because we've been the client. Like I have been the client of RPOs in the past. I have been an in-house recruiter. So when I'm speaking to potential Join Talent clients about their challenges and things, I'm drawing on my own experience and drawing on, sort of what I know from, when I worked there or when I worked wherever. So yeah, my role at Join Talent is quite varied. So currently I'm sort of parachuting into the internal talent team because we're really busy at the moment, which is a fantastic sign for the industry. So I've been doing a lot of recruiting in APAC at the moment, particularly, and helping them, sort of helping the team bring great people in. But, it's super varied. One day I'll be at a recruitment conference talking to people day in, day out about all things Join Talent. Then the next day I'm, running an AMA session online about, career journeys and talent acquisition. I did that last week. That's flown by. Then I'm, today I've been screening people to work in India and Japan. And then later in the week, I might be recruiting for people in the UK and the US before finishing off the week, writing up some articles and blogs for LinkedIn and recording this podcast. So it's super varied role.
You're right. It's very varied indeed. It must never be a dull day for you. So, so looking at some of the areas that you're quite passionate about, I understand, is recruiter enablement. How do you define this, Sophie?
Great question. Everybody defines it slightly differently. So recruiter enablement, I think, is quite an interesting topic. It's definitely a growing one. I think it's a really important one. It is something that most good talent acquisition people will have engaged with at some point, whether they realize this or not. At the start of the year, before I joined my current organization, I was fortunate enough to work with a chap called Adam Gordon, who is an entrepreneur in the UK in the recruitment industry, and he is currently working on a company called Poetry, the recruiter enablement workspace. And he defines it sort of as the practice that centers around 4 specific pillars: so marketing, operations, learning, technology. Other people take a slightly more zoomed out view. Other people take a much more granular view. But largely speaking, I look at it as you have in a sales organization, sales is essential to a business making money, right? So you have sales enablement, you have marketing, you have sales enablement, revenue operations, whatever you want to call it. But you have a team who, or a person, depending on your company size, who is focused on giving the salespeople everything they need to go out and sell and bring money in for the company. However, to take it a step back, if you have recruiters in your organization, they're the ones hiring your salespeople, right? So if they don't have all of the tools that they need to deliver those salespeople, doesn't matter how good your sales enablement is really, because if they're not equipped to hire great salespeople, as an example, then you're never going to be able to sell anything, right? A bad hire can cost the company thousands and thousands of pounds. So it is absolutely in a business's interest to look at equipping your recruiters with all of the tools they need to succeed. Something that we take really seriously at Join Talent. We've got the incredible Lee Harding working for us as our Director of Talent Enablement and Analytics. And his sole focus is making sure that we have everything we need to, put our recruiters onto client site. They are fully equipped. They are ready to go from day one. They've been trained. They've got all of the software they need. They have all of the support they need ongoing, so they can kind of drop into our clients and hit the ground running immediately. And that is what recruiter enablement does for your organization. It saves you time. It gets your recruiters operating quicker, and means that you can be as effective as possible with your team. So yeah, as you can tell, pretty passionate about it.
Yes, definitely. I can see how you even lean forward to tell me more about that. So, yes.
Yes. If anyone's hearing this on audio, they're not seeing me leaning in and waving my hands at the camera. But anyone on video, I do apologize.
It is video. So yes. So enablement, is it an onboarding process? Does it take that form, or is it organic on the job? How does that look like? It can take any form, you think?
Yeah, it can take any form. So it's, on the most basic level, it's making sure you've got good templates and good practice in place for your job descriptions. You've got a fixed process for your hiring process. You've got managers that are trained in how to interview, so that they're not just kind of going, yeah, so like, why do you want to work here? They're getting excited, and they're engaging the candidates, and the candidates coming out of the interview buzzing and really eager to join. It's making sure that there's a smooth handover between recruiting and HR, so the onboarding goes well, pre-boarding goes well, because if you get that wrong, the candidate might not even join. It sets up the promise of your employer value proposition. It sets up the promise of your employer brand that you're going out to market with. So yeah, I do think it's a really important piece, but it can look really different. It doesn't have to be a fancy piece of software. It doesn't have to be a whole army of people behind the scenes. It can be everybody might have their own individual practice, but then sort of Recruit Enablement brings that together and makes sure everybody who's got a slightly different but fantastic way of working can talk to each other and get everything aligned.
So, Sophie, apart from hiring, a bad hire costing an organization in terms of money, what else might be the cost of not prioritizing enablement strategies for a recruiter?
Yeah, cost of time. So even if they're making great hires, they might be working so much harder than they need to be. So for example, thinking about all of the documentation that goes into one recruitment process end to end, you've got intake meetings, which are absolutely essential. You've got to get them right. So much of the recruitment process, if you sit and actually map out every individual action, so much of the recruitment process actually happens before you even advertise the role, before you start speaking to people. And if you don't get those bits right, sort of before you even go to market, you're not going to have a good time, to put it bluntly. So a lot of it for me comes in at that early stage, and making sure you're getting your intake meetings right, making sure that you're connected with the people, looking at workforce planning and things like that. So in its simplest form, it can be making sure you've got the right documentation in the right place and everybody's using the same template as well. So one organization I went into, fantastic company, loved working there, but I sort of realized everybody was working off different documents. Every team had their own thing, which meant that the bar was a little bit different in each different team.
Right.
And I didn't know it at the time because the term recruiter enablement hadn't been coined for another year yet. And so I didn't know that what I was doing was recruiter enablement, but basically I just went and standardized everything. And it made things so much easier because we were all singing from the same hymn sheet. Everybody was recruiting to the same kind of bar, the same standard. And also it means, if somebody goes off sick or they've got to go and do a nursery pickup, but the candidate's coming into interview, or, they're booked to do an interview online in the modern world, somebody else can sub in. Because they've got everything they need to jump in and support. It enables so much collaboration as well.
Collaboration, and speaking of collaboration, you want to get buy-in. Let's say this is a program in which you have to invest time and money, and training is involved, and there is a certain onboarding process, I would assume, that goes into this. So how do you go about getting that kind of buy-in from senior management, for instance, to invest in these enablement programs, as you may call it?
Yeah, I mean, I probably use the term enablement practice. It's an ongoing thing. In terms of buy-in, measure, test, tweak is probably what I do. So where are you at now? Where would you like to be? Okay, well, let's keep trying, reiterating, taking a very kind of almost product-focused approach, sort of product management-focused approach to how you're looking at it. And then as you go, you will start to see incremental improvements, whether that is reducing your time to hire, reducing your cost per hire, getting more candidates moving through stages, or even, dare I say it, interviewing fewer people at the earlier stages, which means you're running a more efficient process, which gives your teams more time back. It is very easy to tie a chair cost to each of that person's time. So there's a jokey meme online that went around a couple of months ago of somebody who managed to hack their Google Calendar to show the cost of each person's time for every meeting that they're doing. Now, if you're running a bad briefing meeting, which means that you're not talking to the right people because you haven't got the right information to start with, then you're putting 10 people through a process when actually, if you had a good briefing, you've only put 5. You're doubling the cost of interviewing for that round, because people are spending time that they don't have. So I think if you're trying to get buy-in from the business, that is a really good way of getting buy-in from the business. You've got to talk the language of the business, and it's money. The closer you are to the money, the better. It's all well and good talking about how it affects the recruiter, but the business is paying the recruiters to do a job. But if you go to the business and say, well, actually, it's costing us a fortune in company time interviewing because we haven't got this tool, which is going to help make us more efficient. It's a pretty easy discussion then.
And going back to your previous experience, your experience in startups, especially those that are scaling really fast, I imagine it'd be pretty aggressive to work in that environment, build processes and just look into efficiencies, right? So in your opinion, how do startups or maybe new companies, how can they position themselves as a good place to work, or a place where you would see yourself growing and you would see a future with this company, especially when they're new in a highly competitive industry?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. There's a balance. So I would say you kind of want to screen out as many people as you screen in. You do that by being really honest about what you are as a company. Are you super focused on having intensive face-to-face team time and being in an office 5 days a week? Be honest about that. Is this job going to be really intense for the next 18 months? And then you'll get the chance to build a team and things will start to level out and kind of scale up as we grow. Be honest about that. Are you offering a huge amount of equity because you truly believe that this will be the next big thing, but right now it's a huge risk, but people who are super bought into it will take that journey. Be honest about that. By being honest and authentic about what you're actually offering as a business, you attract the right people. So my last company that I worked for, Zinc, was they were 9 people when I joined, and they were nearly 50 when I finished last summer. And I was the only recruiter there that entire time. Also the only HR person. So, it was a very, very busy role, but, we succeeded and had a really high offer acceptance rate, because also a very high probation pass rate, and it's really nice seeing my hires getting promotions now.
Indeed.
It's pretty cool. I'm like, I still follow them on LinkedIn if any of them are watching this, and I'm like, get you. But yeah, you know, we did that by being really clear about what we were and, you know, who we are. Like, you will have fun. We're a great bunch of people. You know, here's all the things we do to support your well-being. Here's all the things we do to make sure that, you know, you're set up for success. But, you know, just to be really honest, there's high expectations. There's a, you know, and it is a busy role. You know, your time outside of work's your own, but yeah, it's pretty hectic in work. But, you know, there will be people for whom that doesn't appeal, and that's absolutely fine. So I think when you're thinking about kind of articulating that as a startup, you've got to be really honest about what you are, what you can offer, what the benefits are, and also be comfortable with the fact that not everyone's going to want to work for you, and be cool with that. As the founder, as a super early stage employee, you're closer to the founders, you're going to be more bought in naturally. As you expand, people get further and further away from that kind of epicenter nucleus of the company. So yeah, people will be a little bit less bought in. So you've got to think about, you know, what's in it for them. And you know, you're going to find people that go, no, that sounds like hell. You will, and that's absolutely fine. You have to be comfortable with that. And yeah, you will attract people that are super bought in, absolutely love working there, and think it's the career opportunity of their life. So yeah, I think that authenticity piece is really important.
And speaking of those people who have accepted the offer and maybe just gone through the whole process with you, what is your most memorable or favorite recruitment story, Sophie?
Yeah, sure. My favorite recruitment story. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I've got a couple. In terms of favorite recruitment stories, probably this was probably about 10 years ago now. So I had to recruit quite an interesting product management role, but sort of a junior product manager. So in theory, like, should be quite easy, right? But they had to be interested in quite a few like really random things. So the product they were actually working on was quite niche. It was an analytics product in market research. So we wanted somebody with quite like broad experience that would want to take on this junior role, and we were struggling to find like the right person. Somebody wanted like a kind of pure play software product manager. That's what we were coming up against a lot. And sort of scratching my head a bit. I think my favorite thing about that role is that I filled it by meeting somebody in a pub. I know that sounds bad because we're all against the beer test, right? I didn't meet her at the time. I'd met her about a year before. We got chatting, and then I had posted on my social media just saying, hey, this is a really cool role at my company. If anybody's interested in getting into product management on here, it is work, you know, this was in 2017. So it's like, it is work in London. It's, you know, I really love working here. It's super fun. If you wanted to know more about it, like, let me know. And this person I'd met in a pub like a year ago, we'd never talked about recruitment ever. I don't think she even knew what I did for a living at the time. And that's absolutely fine. She reached out to me and just sort of said, oh yeah, that actually sounds like exactly what I'm looking for at the moment. We had a call and I was like, I ran to the hiring manager and I was like, Elliot, great news, I found her.
And then this was how long since you posted, or how long? What was the wait time to fill this vacancy?
The lead time to fill that role, I think that role had been open at that point for about 8 weeks. So yeah, two months. So, you know, it had been a while, and we were like, we'd interviewed people and met some brilliant people, but they weren't right for the role. And we were starting to go, right, we need to go, if we're not happy with our current batch of interviews, we need to go back to the drawing board, basically, is where we're at. And sort of really reevaluate this role and what we're not getting right here. And, you know, looking for a needle in a haystack, basically. What was really, so, you know, this person interviewed for the role, they absolutely nailed it. They hired it. They're still working in product management today, and doing a brilliant job. But, you know, on their first day, showed me up a bit, really, because they sort of said, oh, how do you know Sophie, by the way? Like, how did you find the role? She's like, I met Sophie in a pub like a year ago. Did she not say? No, she did not. It
worked out in the end. It worked out in the end, Sophie.
It It did. She did a fantastic job. You know, first product management role, and you know, took a whole new intelligence product to market. So yeah, she did a pretty darn good job. But yeah, I did cringe a bit when she sort of said that. I was like, oh no, that's not going to sound good.
That's color. That's lovely. Thanks so much for sharing, and thanks, Sophie, for your wonderful insights today. This has been great, and again for your time and sharing all your thoughts on especially recruiter enablement. And so for those who are listening in, especially those who may have placed before or maybe wanting to connect again, drop us your contact details and someone can pick up a conversation with you later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way to get in touch with me, Lydia, would probably be through LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com, what is it, /Sophie L Power. But yeah, I'm Sophie Power, work at Join Talent. So super easy to find on LinkedIn. And yeah, it probably is actually the best way to get in touch with me, to be honest. So yeah, welcome to drop me a connection if anybody wants to chat further.
Great. Thanks again, Sophie. And we have been in conversation with Sophie Power of Join Talent. Thank you for joining us. And remember to subscribe to stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.